Good afternoon. I understand that lunch is being cleared, but we have a great treat in our next keynote speaker, so let me get to it. My name is Lulu Wang. I'm one of the co-chairs of the Committee 100 conference. As I speak to you in this room, it reminds me that it was just 4 years ago that we had our last Committee 100 annual conference in New York, because we rotate only every 4 years to New York. And in 2007, from this place, our keynote speaker was Henry Kravis. And I was just speaking to Henry the other day, and we were talking about the time he was here, and he remembers it very fondly. And then he said, rather ruefully, he said, that was the top of the market. He said, I think back on what I said to the committee, and I said at the top of the market that we were entering a golden era, that things were going so well, that there was a great deal of prosperity in U.S. and China, and he was looking forward to that. Well, we know what happened since 2007. The U.S. and, of course, the world went into a bone-crunching financial crisis. And here in this great city of ours, we lost many historic institutions, but many survived. And those which survived, like Citigroup, were led by courageous, honest leaders who understood that the game had changed and who set on the course of building new companies, establishing new standards of financial discipline, accountability, and transparency, and making a true commitment to real economic growth, not short-term opportunities, but real long-term economic growth for their companies and to bring value added to their clients and their communities. These were the leaders who will be leading the recovery of the financial institutions in New York City and in America. Vikram Pandit is such a leader. He has been honest about the new model that financial institutions must now pursue. He has been dedicated to innovative, competitive, and a diverse future for his company. And he has also looked abroad for the future, committed to his institution's place in a truly global world. Vikram was born in India, and as many of us here, is a naturalized citizen. His understanding of the global world in which we all live in and in which his company now competes in is manifest in many ways. One small thing that is of interest to many of us at C100 has been the leadership role that Citigroup has taken in the President's initiative called 100,000 Strong, to bring young Americans to China over the next decade, to make sure that there is an exchange of young people in both countries, understanding the values and the perspectives. And so for this reason, I bring you Vikram Pandit, CEO of Citigroup, and he will share with you his thoughts about the future of his company, but also of the financial institutions in America. Vikram?
Lulu, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you for sandwiching me between Governor Christie and Mayor Bloomberg as well. That's a tough spot to be in. But I see a lot of friends out there, and I'm pleased and honored to be invited to speak today. Lulu talked about Citi, and yes, we restructured Citi. We're back to the basics of banking, which is to serve the real economy. We connect the world for our clients as America's global bank, and we're committed to practicing responsible finance. And what I mean by that is before we enter into any transaction, we ask ourselves three questions. Is this transaction in the interest of our client? Is it systemically responsible? And does it add any economic value? And the answer has to be yes. Otherwise, we don't do it. What I want to talk about today is something different than Citi, a little bit different than financial institutions, although it'll be apparent as I speak why this topic is absolutely critical, not only to the health of a financial institution, but also to the health of America. I want to talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, which is the relationship between the U.S. and China. And it's a little presumptuous of me to come here and talk to you all about that topic. I mean, you know it well, you know the facts extremely well, and the Committee of 100 has been a vital voice in deepening that relationship and furthering understanding on both sides. But I think it is the important issue of our times, and your role as the Committee of 100 will only grow as the importance of the U.S.-China ties intensify. Just a couple of days ago, I was in Washington with Secretary Clinton, Secretary Geithner, Secretary Locke, and this was a meeting of delegations on both sides. Vice Premier Wang was there, and State Councilor Dai, as well as a number of China's most prominent business people. And it was a great dialogue, and I am, and Citi is proud to be part of this U.S.-China strategic economic dialogue. And one thing I'm really encouraged by is that Secretary Locke will be America's new ambassador in Beijing, and I'm very confident that not only will he represent our country well, but bring the two economies closer together. We at Citi have been long in China. We started in 1902. We started in Shanghai. Today we have 5,000 people. We have retail branches in 13 cities around the country, and we increase more branches every time we get permission to add another city. And we also have a number of joint ventures, including one with the Guangdong Development Bank and another with Shanghai Pudong Development Bank. We're also, as Lulu said, a part of the Founders Circle of the State Department's 100,000 Strong Initiative. This is a program that was designed to enhance America's understanding of China by increasing the number of American students who live and study in China. And over the next few years, we at Citi plan to provide more than 100 internships in our offices there in Beijing and in Shanghai. But mutual understanding has never been more important. Senior government officials and business leaders on both sides of the Pacific have called the Beijing-Washington relationship the single most important bilateral relationship in the world today, and they're exactly right. But I'd go further. It's not merely the most important, it's also unique. Not only in our time, but also in history, great power rivalries are common. What's unusual is a situation in which the world's two leading powers are partners across a range of globally important issues. Now, that's not to say that the U.S. and China don't have their differences, but I think it's more constructive to focus on what's working and on those areas where it makes sense for the two countries to work more closely together. Now, Lulu was clear. I am a banker, and I'll tell you that bankers are not usually good politicians, and so I'm not here to give political advice. But instead, what I want to talk to you about is the collaborative role that our two economies can play in driving world growth and how that role is changing. We at Citi maintain a presence not only in China, but we have a physical presence in 101 countries around the world, and we do business in 60 more, which is what makes us America's global bank. And I'm in constant touch with our people on the ground, with ministers, with central bankers, with companies in many nations, and I also do a fair bit of traveling myself. And most of our employees and our clients, as well as government officials that I talk to, see the U.S.-China relationship in fundamentally the same way. And that's the perspective that I'd like to share with you today. We're the two most important economies in the world, and not just because we're the two largest. Our importance goes much deeper than that. The U.S. is the world's largest economy. It's the largest consumer market, one of the largest manufacturers, and still the biggest innovator. In other words, the U.S. economy has the single greatest impact on global economic aggregates.